This is the GoPro Hero 9, my first GoPro since the Hero 3, but is the 9th gen Hero finally worth buying? Despite the most clickbaity trailers that come with the announcement of every new GoPro each year, I've been still sitting on the fence about buying a new GoPro ever since the Hero 3. You see, when I bought my Hero 3 many years ago, I took it home, I opened it, I fiddled around with it, and I never used it ever since. The image quality and the usability just wasn't there for me to use it in the real world. So once bitten, twice shy. So you might be a little like me every time you see those new shut up and take my money GoPro trailers. You think, well, this is all well and good GoPro, but I'm not an extreme athlete traveling 4 corners of the world, even before 2020. But when you're offered the keys to a new Lambo for a day, well, that has a tendency to nudge you more towards that impulse buying. On the original Hero 3, the image quality wasn't even close to the bare minimum of what I needed, and the usability just wasn't user-friendly enough. There's a point where if I need to get around enough of a hurdle just to use it, well, I'm not going to use it at all. Sure, it's great for capturing extreme action and some niche content, but it's just too limiting for me to use for more mainstream content creation. So if your situation is anything like mine, you would also be wondering whether the 9th generation of the Hero is finally worth giving another shot. If you watched my video with the Lamborghini Huracan the other week, you'll have seen that it was entirely filmed using the GoPro Hero 9 and only the GoPro Hero 9. I also used it recently for some behind the scenes shooting a Ducati Superleggera V4, which is really exciting. I can't wait to show you guys some of that. But I also used it to capture some behind the scenes footage of me doing rolling shots of a bike build. So how well does it finally perform? Well, the Hero 9 has come leaps and bounds from the Hero 3 when it comes to usability. I mean, having that big, beautiful touchscreen at the back, as well as having that front-facing screen. The front-view-facing screen is slower FPS. I believe it's only 15 frames a second, and it is cropped, but it certainly helps when it comes to composition and doing your selfies. The touchscreen was a little bit tricky to use at the start. I thought it was okay to use, but after doing the major update, the touchscreen has gone from being okay to use to being great to use. So that's not a problem at all anymore. Usability wise, this thing is fantastic. And one of the main reasons I was lured towards buying a GoPro was actually to do some wide point of view shots, which is very difficult to do with mainstream cameras. I was initially leaning towards the iPhone 12 for doing these wide angle point of view shots. The iPhone 12 has arguably a better processor, but the main thing is, well, I can't strap an iPhone 12 on the side of a Lamborghini. Well, I could, but that would be kind of silly. I can, however, strap a GoPro on the side of the Lamborghini. It makes sense to strap the GoPro to the Lamborghini and use my phone for something else. And the Lamborghini turned out to be the perfect test run for the new GoPro Hero 9, not just in terms of a subject matter point of view, but from a practicality standpoint as well. The front of the Lambo had abysmal room, and the new GoPro meant no gimbals, no big cameras, no big lenses, and even the suction mount and accessories are all tiny and can fit everything in easily. No gimbals were used whatsoever, no external mics, everything was recorded internally. It's a fantastic package straight out of the box. When shooting the Lambo, I used hyper smooth but not boost mode because it tends to crop in too much. I wanted that wider point of view. I think it was only cropping around 10% rather than 30%. However, when it came to these bike shots, I did use boost mode in hyper smooth. I think it goes without saying why I turned it on, and to counter the 30% crop, I set it to super view. And by the way, if you're wondering how we got these unique camera angles, I'll put a link to the mouth mount we used in the description below. Also interesting to note is this weird jittery effect you get when you run into the limits of hypersmooth, even with boost mode on. This little action camera with all the features that it's packed already inside, coupled with its amazing usability, makes it an excellent vlogging camera, though I think I would like to upgrade the audio. The Blackmagic Pocket 4K, for instance, captured much better audio internally from the bike exhaust than the GoPro. But the million-dollar question is, how does the image quality stand up? Is it finally worth using this for mainstream content creation? Well, first of all, I gotta say I'm totally spoiled when it comes to image quality. Coming from the GH5, the GH5S, and the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, I'm spoiled for choice, and going to the GoPro is still an ordeal. Looking back at the footage, I would say that the image quality is probably good enough for vlogging. I have used the Sony ZV-1 with my M3, M4, G80 and G82 videos, and I gotta say that really spoiled me when it comes to vlogging image quality. But I have to say, I think the GoPro Hero 9, for its usability and form factor and how practical it is to use, I think it works really well for vlogging. I mean, you can tell me if you don't like the quality of my behind the scenes videos. Its accessibility makes it better in that I can capture footage that I wouldn't otherwise have been able to get with a larger vlogging camera. But for more mainstream content creation, it could be used for very difficult to capture situations. The thing is, you can still tell that it's come from an action camera. It's perfectly doable, but you need to get everything right, both in camera, out of camera, and in post-production. Even when you get your settings right, even when you're shooting in the right exposure, even when you shoot in flat mode, even if you give it plenty of light, even if you use ND filters when you want to have more motion blur or a slower shutter speed, even when you use artificial and bounce light on your subject matter, even when you grade it really carefully, it still doesn't integrate with my A cameras so well. And whilst I appreciate the limitation of action cameras, I don't think it's too much to ask for, because for instance in the Mavic Pro 2 that I use, that integrates with my A cam footage really well. There's still a greater degree of control with the Mavic Pro 2. However, having said that, to be fair, this is an action camera and it has different requirements. And there are times when you can only get the shot with an action camera like a GoPro. At the end of the day, it's all about getting shots that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to get with a non-action camera. To be fair, this is great for an action camera. It's good for a vlogging camera, and it's okay for very specific and limited use for mainstream content creation. Oh, and it's still rubbish in low light. But what do you guys think of the image quality? After seeing some of my BTS shots, do you think it's satisfactory? If you're coming from the Hero 7 or Hero 8, I don't think this is worthwhile upgrading. But after so many years of clickbaity trailers, one has to wonder, does the Hero 9 finally live up to the hype? Or do we have to wait for the Hero 10? And is it bad that, at least for me, the most exciting thing about each new year's GoPro announcement are the trailers?